Take two.
Yeah.
So we found out what the issue is. It was something electrical, obviously. We couldn't get, so the issue was we couldn't get the car to start. It wouldn't crank, it wouldn't turn over, it wouldn't do anything. So we thought it was an immobilizer issue or an issue with the security system in general because it has the factory Honda security system built in. So what we ended up doing was trying a couple of things. We made sure that from the battery we were getting power to the actual main fuse, 100 amp. Then from there, checking to see if it was giving 50 amp fuse any power, which is what goes to the ignition. That was getting power, so then we went ahead and tried the ignition switch inside to make sure that there was constant power to the ignition switch. That was good. And the actual ignition turn on, ACC2, we wanted to make sure that that was getting power whenever you switch the key to on. And that was also getting power. The next thing to check was to make sure that the relay for the starter was working. We swapped the relay for another relay. We pretty much just flipped it in the fuse box inside the car. Still couldn't get it to start. One thing we found was that in the actual relay, there's one leg that'll get power once there's a ground source, and the ground source comes from the clutch switch. So we pressed the button, but it still wouldn't start. So it led us to believe that the switch might be bad. I had a spare one, so we tried the spare one and we held it in, and that worked. You can do this with a paper clip or anything else. We just happened to find a cable connector, just jumped it to complete the circuit. It's completed at all times. So now you don't have to press the clutch down, but you always have to make sure that the transmission isn't engaged in any gear. Make sure it's in neutral before you start the car, because the car will jump at that point. And that solved the issue. But now we have a couple of minor issues that we have to deal with. The car is idling at 3,000 RPMs right when you fire it up. It started up just fine. It just took a couple of tries because there wasn't any fuel in the lines. It looks like the TPS sensor might need to be calibrated a bit more because we never touched the cable, the throttle cable lines and the cruise control cable line. It was to spec still. I tried to adjust it while the car was on, and that wasn't the issue. More adjustments on the TPS, but now that the car starts, those are easier things to work with, so yeah. We're still trying to figure this out. We don't know why it's idling at 3,000 RPMs right when we start it up, but we have a check engine light now, so that's a good sign. We'll be able to hopefully nail it down. We are a little bit over. Right now it's set to 0.55 volts, and we're trying to get it to 0.5. So let me loosen this up a bit. And 0.51 at closed, and see where that gets us. We got the TPS working, so I don't want to say it's idling properly, but it's idling as it should, and now it picked up a surge. A surge usually is an indication of a vacuum leak or air in the actual coolant line somewhere. So we probably need to bleed the coolant lines because we had the engine completely drained out and there's probably air and not enough coolant, and we also have a leak. We're gonna look at that. We're making good progress with just little things here and there, so I think we'll be all right. So let's get to that. We have the coolant hose down there that's pretty much leaking. We tightened it as much as we could, but that's not working out. We're gonna put a funnel down there, take this driver's side tire off, verify how that's looking. We'll know if we need to get it replaced or if it's something else. This is a fail. We overextended the use or how tight we should go with this. So we're gonna get some smaller clamps. We got the car going, it turns on, it just idles rough. It still has that surge. We reset the ECU codes. We were getting an idle air control valve issue and a vacuum leak. So it could be one of the two. The issue that we have is that this air box doesn't fit properly. So when I ordered it from Honda, Honda actually got me the wrong one. And I'm gonna have to go get that exchanged. So that could be that issue. And also the vacuum leak could maybe be something in the throttle body that we may have to check. I'm not sure yet. Or the idle air control valve probably needs to be cleaned out, so we have to take the throttle body off to fix that. And that's the surge we get. The most disappointing part about this whole thing, now that everything is together, the engine starts up, everything looks pretty solid besides that idle issue, is that the transmission is actually bad. So the guy I purchased it from told me that it was a rebuild and it didn't have any grinds or anything like that, but you can't trust anything off the internet, right? So we put it in, take it for a test drive, and third gear grinds when you're going from second to third, and second gear grinds if you're going from third back down to second. So kind of bummed about that because that means the transmission has to come back down, and that was the initial issue with this vehicle. The vehicle we thought had a transmission issue initially, and master cylinder, the clutch master cylinder was actually busted, and we replaced the original transmission, which was most likely in great shape, and we purchased a replacement transmission that isn't, and the other transmission is long gone because we thought it was bad. So that was a bad decision on my part, but hey, it's running. Idle issue, and it's good to go. So I'm gonna do a couple of things today. One of the issues with the car is that it still idles pretty rough. I have a surge, so it's either a vacuum leak or the idle air control valve. I also have very little power steering fluid in the car itself. When we had taken the engine out, power steering fluid just fell everywhere. So I have to fill that up. I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna see if I can clear this surge out. So I don't know how this is gonna turn out, but let's see. I like to take them out in a cross pattern so that nothing gets warped. And what you want to make sure is that you don't mess with the throttle position sensor so that you don't have to recalibrate it. And there you go, it's all out. This second one out. Best thing to do is to press down as you turn so that you don't strip, because these are pretty hard to find unless if you order them directly from Honda, which is what I typically do anyway, but then you set yourself back a couple of days for shipment. Okay, so expect this to leak. This also has a gasket inside. It's usually a blue or green rubber gasket. And that's what it looks like. This is the gasket. Let's see, get some better light here. This doesn't guarantee anything, by the way. But it is something to try. The only thing that's gonna guarantee if this is the issue or not is replacing it. But I think these are like 80 or 90 bucks. Then you line it up to the same bolts and you get the rest of the bolts and put the intake back on. Let's put, this doesn't have to be perfect at the moment. What we're trying to do is troubleshoot to see if what we've done so far will fix our current issue. We're 30 seconds in, there it goes. Surging again, surging from 800. Okay, so the idle air control valve, after cleaning it, it's still not working. It's still surging. I don't know why yet. But I'm not getting a check engine light like I was before. I'm gonna connect the OBD2 reader and scanner, see if I can pick up a code this time, even though the check engine light isn't coming on, to see if I get anything. See if maybe I solved one problem but still have the other. I don't know, but let's find out. The car is idling fine now. I actually cheated. I couldn't figure out if there were any other vacuum hoses having an issue. So I did what I didn't want to do. I went to the parts store and picked up a new idle air control valve from AutoZone. This is the old one. This is the one we were working with earlier, as you can see here. And it went bad. It went completely bad. The car was sitting there for 2 to 3 years, but it's working. It idles perfectly now, as you can hear, and it's idling right at 800 RPMs. So we're good to go. So we're done here. We're done with this project, other than the transmission where we have that third gear. And that's something for another day. We'll bring that transmission down and replace that gear, do the rebuild. There we go. That's how you deal with one of these when you have a surge, idle air control valve. So I hope it was helpful. If you find it helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumbs up anyway, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it.